So, how did my brother and me get started though? Because I know originally from North Carolina, and I always hear from directors that a part of TV shows and movies are a part of their life. So, is that part of your upbringing to create the show?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to do a African American version of my Leave It to Beaver. That's always that was my goal when I came up with my brother and me, and I got with a friend of mine named Malunga Adele, who is well known for being one of the first black writers on Sanford and Son. And if you look at Sanford and Son, Malunga wrote several episodes, so it was kind of a dream pairing because I met him years ago and on another show, and together we ended up creating what became my brother and me.
And I really loved it too because it was really the first African American show to be put on a children's network predominantly. Is that something that was really a proud of for you? A huge
Yeah,
accomplishment?
it was really cool because, like I say, it was the first African American sitcom that was on Nickelodeon, and even though it ran 1 year, it basically paved the path for shows like Keenan and Kel and
Hmm. All that.
Cousin Peter and pretty much all of the other black shows that are on even now, like Haunted Hathaways and stuff. There wouldn't have been nothing without my brother and me. I mean, we definitely were the first, and I think it's funny even now, 20 years later, it is still fondly remembered and talked about by people. So I mean, it makes me proud. I'm like
Hmm.
really
Yeah.
happy. I
Yeah.
mean, because like I said, we're talking about a show that was done on a shoestring budget, mostly unknown actors, and a lot of, in the case of several of the cast members, first-time actors. I mean, so I was pretty proud of what we did with what we had to work with. I mean, we just wanted to do a show that was fun, where kids talked like kids and got into, fun situations where, like I said, the show was definitely a kid-driven show. I mean, we had the parents and we had adults on there from time to time, but it really was about the kids.
Yes, yes, it was, and I really, really liked that too. And this was shot at the Nickelodeon Studios in Orlando, Florida. What was your first impression
Uh,
of the place?
well, I was a little spoiled after, working in LA. My very first job, I was a writing intern on the show, A
Hmm.
Different World, and that was in 1989. And then 5 years later, I ended up doing My Brother and Me. And, I've been on the CBS Radford lot. I had been on the Disney lot, the Fox lot. I've been on, Paramount lot. So I was relatively spoiled with, facilities because in LA, everything's state of the art, at least back then, 20 years ago, and even now it's even more so. But despite everything, the Nickelodeon studios, it was a fun place. I mean, unfortunately, there were times like when planes flew over, we would have to stop production, so it went away because, like I said, they didn't have the sound thing that we had out here in LA, and other little minor glitches from time to time. But it ended up being a fun experience. I mean, we weren't able to shoot in front of a live studio audience. If we did have a second season, that would have been my goal. I think it helps shooting a show in front of an audience. I think it gives the actors energy, and you get the live response and everything. But because our cast was so young and so untested, they weren't ready. I mean, Alfie and Goo, Arthur Reggie, and
Jimmy Newman.
Jimmy Newman, they were both, actors that I had used before on other shows. I actually used them both, I think, on the Sinbad show when I was working over there. And I immediately, when we were casting, put their names in the mix, and both of them actually ended up snagging roles. It's funny, when we initially put it out there, Arthur was actually slated to play Goo, and Jimmy was slated to play Alfie. But one of the big problems at the time was because of the way the structured and skin tone and stuff, it just didn't seem like it was going to work. But I got a call one day telling me that Arthur really wanted to play Alfie as opposed to Goose.
Mm.
And I just said, you know what, let's just switch these guys. I said, they're both good actors, they both can handle it, and it ended up being magic. Because like I said, originally Alfie was slated to be played by Jimmy, and like I say, I read Arthur was going to play Goo, because Arthur had a great run on Martin and some other shows where he played like a kind of smart-ass character like Goo. But it ended up being really brilliant because when we made that switch, we ended up having an Alfie with an edge versus the kind of straight-laced Alfie we would have had if Jimmy had played him. So it ended up working great because, like I said, we had Arthur, who was an edgy guy. Even now, today, he's still edgy. And Jimmy, who's also an edgy guy, but such a good actor that he can, pretty much morph himself into any role. So getting those two were key. I mean, they are the only two from the original pilot we shot that actually made it to the series.
Wow. Oh yeah, I did hear about the pilot too, and I do agree with the actors they are being the right role because they also reminded me of the What's Happening characters from I think Roger
Yeah,
and his
Roger, Rerun, and Dwayne.
yeah, that's what they remind me of too actually. But
Yeah,
I
so it ended up working out great.
it did. I do agree with there was noisy interruptions because from several people I've heard in the past that like the weather used to be kind of a problem, especially with rain because it rains a lot in Florida, and so you
Yeah.
guys had to stop production mostly.
Yeah, if the rain was really hard or torrential, yeah, we would have to stop. I mean, if it was just like light or drizzle, we were fine. But,
Hmm.
there were times where it would like come down hard and get to the point where, it would affect the sound. So like I said, it was a little primitive at times compared to, working in Los Angeles, but despite everything, it worked out pretty good.
And the show didn't have a live audience, but one of the good things about the Nick Studios was the tour passing by do a viewing too from up above. Do you remember that? Where guests.
Yeah, no, it was good. I mean, like I said, it gave people a chance to see something as it was being produced, which is always, a fun thing for a tour. I
Hmm.
mean, it would have been even better if we had a second or third season when people would have known the show, because when we were shooting, nobody had a clue about the show. But once we got on the air, it really became a monster, especially in ratings. We were like pretty much in the top 15 cable ratings every week that the show was on the air. I mean, and we're talking about for a couple of years, just 13 episodes, but people still watch the same episodes over and over and over. And it was funny, it was an article that someone sent me from online. It was actually Mary Dudley, who was one of our producers. She sent me this article that was out last year. I probably it's in my email somewhere, where they said the top 10 shows that should have never been canceled, and my brother and me was on there. It was really funny. I mean, and this was with like big, high prestige shows that had major budgets and major casts and stuff. That our little show shot on a shoestring was actually on that list, but it was fondly remembered. I mean, a lot of people who are now adults remember it from the childhood. I mean, actually, yesterday, out of the blue, I was walking in my office over in Real Husbands of Hollywood, and one of the assistants was playing my brother and me theme on the computer. So it's just funny. It was like such a real to a lot of people I've been working with for like 2 years, and they found out that I, was one of the creators, my brother and me. You did that show? I mean, I love that show. I grew up, so it's a good feeling.
Yeah, it is. You kind of answered a lot of the question I was going to ask about it being such a positive impact on fans years later, and especially with all the '90s shows from that era, the Nick shows. I mean, that must have been a great accomplishment too to know that it's still fondly remembered too. So thank you for saying that. One of the good things about being at Nick was all the other shows that were taping there too. Like, do you remember other stuff shooting there?
When we were there, Gullah Gullah Island was shooting. When we finished, all that came in there. Um,
Right. I do remember
let me
that.
see. There was another show that ran. It was it was another show with like kids and puppets. I can't
Allegra's
remember the name.
Window.
That was it. The Leopard Window. Yeah. So there were a few shows that were in production around the same time we were.
Hmm.
But,
Yeah,
because the studios only had like a couple of stages, there was only so much you could do at one time.
yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah, I just remember one of my favorite episodes that you were speaking about was, of course, the Goo Punch episode with the basketball tryouts. That's the name of it.
Yeah.
Yes, people.
Everybody loves the Group Punch episode. They love the song, and it's funny. I mean, the episode. It's not the title wasn't Group Punch, but that's what everybody
Yeah.
remembers. The name of the episode was "Hit the Open Man." But once we did that song, it became the Group Punch episode, and I mean, it's really amazing that that little song that we shot, maybe took like a couple hours to do the whole thing. It became such a big thing. If you go on the internet, on YouTube, and put Group Punch in there,
Hmm.
there's like links with the site with the actual episode, links with just the Group Punch song, links with guys singing Group Punch. It's really funny.
It is
And
fun.
so this is a show that was on 20 years ago, and it's been off the air probably about 17 years. So that even now that people still do the whole Group Punch thing is pretty funny.
It is. It is. And another one that I loved is when the father Roger, him, Alfie, and Dee Dee were like doing that dance while the dishwasher was flooding inside the kitchen. They were showing
Oh
all the.
yeah. Yeah, that was a funny bit.
Yeah, it was. It was like.
I think both of those episodes were written and co-written by the same writer, Fred Johnson, who had a very distinguished career on other shows like Moesha, Single Ladies, the Bernie Mac Show. I mean, Fred's one of my best friends, and an excellent writer and a funny guy.
Hmm. Yeah, and this is going to be kind of random, but did you ever see anyone or the kids ever get slimed, or any of the cast members get the green slime on them, or were you ever slimed at one
No,
point?
no, and the sad thing about it is, I think one of the reasons we didn't getting picked up again was because of my displeasure of how our kids were really slighted compared to the other kids on other shows. I mean, none of our kids were ever slimed. None of our kids were ever truly featured on that network, or I felt treated like the other kids are, who are now like a lot of these kids are major stars. I mean, but it's like my brother and me was kind of overlooked. It wasn't treated right, and I was vocal about it. And I think at the end of the day, they were like, "This guy's too strong-willed. We just would rather just move on and get somebody else saved and do whatever we say." But yeah, I mean that's the sad thing about it. These kids were never given their due. Even now, it's like 20 years later that
Hmm.
I'm doing the interview about this show and about these guys, as opposed to when this show was actually happening and when it was getting these monster ratings and stuff. I mean, we're probably the highest rated Nickelodeon show that didn't get a pickup ever. So it was. I always felt that we were, slighted, and it was funny. Herb Scannell, who was the president of Nickelodeon, I saw him years later when I was at the NAMIC Awards, and it's an award show that celebrates diversity in television and film and stuff. And I was working on the Proud Family at the time. The Proud Family was nominated, so I was there, and I ran into Herb Scannell in the bathroom, and that was probably the first time I'd seen Herb. Probably in, I'm guesstimating, probably about 8 years. And, we talked to each other, we greeted each other, and then as we left, he just said, and this was unsolicited out of the blue, he said, "I'm going to tell you the truth, Calvin. The biggest mistake I ever made was not picking up my brother and me."
Wow.
And, that actually made me feel good because, it's like, I know it wasn't his decision ultimately. He listened to his lieutenants who, just had to deal with me all the time, and I know that they literally hated him. But,
Hmm.
Herb just, I guess he said, "All right, you know what, I got to listen to my people." To hear 8 years later a guy admit that the biggest mistake he's made was canceling my brother and me and not picking up my brother and me, I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, 'cause it was completely unexpected, and, it actually made me feel like, okay, you know what we did was good.
That does make sense because Herb Scandal, he is a mixed guy, and so I guess he wanted to see the diversity being more on Nickelodeon. So I do kind of agree that he wanted that show to get still be on the air. So yeah, that's why I think so. But one of the fun things about being there was shooting inside a theme park though, at Universal Studios. Did you have a favorite ride there to go on or attraction?
It's funny. I was so busy working that I didn't really take advantage of it. I mean, my wife and my baby at the time, she was just like maybe about a little over a year old. I mean, so there's only so much we could do with the kiddie stuff. And, of course we went to Disney World and Sea World and um, whatever Busch Gardens things. We did all the, fun tourist stuff at the time. Like I say, my oldest child was 21 now, was like a baby, and my second child was 19 now. He was actually in my wife's stomach. She was pregnant. So it's like we could only do so much while we were there. So, but it was fun. It was nice to walk around and, like just walk lunchtime. If I just wanted to go and just get something different for lunch, just walk out there and just find something, get it, go back to work. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, and and people didn't recognize you yet, like you said earlier, so you didn't have no bother people stopping you guys in the park though.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, behind the scenes guys like me, we don't get stops out, which is cool. I mean, one reason I like being behind the scenes is like I can do my thing, and and I can live pretty anonymously while people who are, in front of the camera, yeah, I mean, they have to constantly deal with people and fans and stuff, which they enjoy. I mean, they hate when they stop running around, but you know, for me, it's like it's never been a big issue for me. I
Okay.
mean, the only thing that I was hurt about, I felt that our kids didn't get to do they deserve because I think they really did something really special on the cheek. And like I said, 20 years later, the show is still fondly remembered. It means a lot.
Right, right. Oh, and going back to the issue with Herb and My Brother and Me being canceled, like, now this the story is that there was some differences between the writers of the show. So was that the main reason why the show got ended after one season?
Pretty much. I mean, like one of their excuses in the release when they didn't pick up the show is that it wasn't the show that they ordered. And my response was, well, it was the only show I ever sold you because what I did was what I thought was best for the show. And whenever you do a show, you're gonna get notes from networks and concerns and stuff. And one of the episodes is also one of the most highly remembered episodes, the bully episode, where the girl was picking on Dee Dee.
Yeah.
They said, don't do that episode. We can't have violence or this that on Nickelodeon. So I abided by it.
Hmm.
But what happened was later that night or over the weekend, I was watching Nickelodeon, and one of their favorite shows, Pete and Pete, was on.
Hmm.
And they had a scene where a kid was picking on one of these kids, and then they had his head in a vice.
Wow.
In a vice, like in a industrial arts class, like no, they were squeezing his head in a vice, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, we can't do a show about a kid getting picked on by a girl, but they can do a show about a kid, his head getting squeezed in a vice. And I said, this is just an effed up double standard. And I said, you know what? Fuck it, we're doing this show. Excuse my language,
It's all right,
man.
man.
I'm a comedy writer, and we curse a lot. But
This is
yeah, I just
uncensored.
said no. So I called and I said, and I used that as an example. I said, you can't tell me that we can't do this on Nickelodeon, but you're showing it on other shows, and that show is tame compared to what you got in the news. So, despite their objections, I did the show, and I'm sure that also probably contributed to the show not getting picked up because, I completely didn't listen because I felt that, what we were doing was kid friendly and right. And now 20 years later, the whole thing about bullying and everything, like I say, it's like, it's a big issue in kids television. And 20 years ago, we were dealing with that, in a fun, comical way, but we were dealing with issues people get bullied in school.
Mm. It It's so weird because, like you said, you guys paid the way for Keenan and Kel and cousin Skeeter and or my the brothers Garcia
I mean,
and
even to an extent, all that.
yeah, right. That's right. Yeah, and still you guys were ended. I mean, I hate not using the issue, but maybe it was like a racial issue at the time. Maybe they weren't ready. Do you think that must have been a problem for the network?
You know what? I think at times probably. I mean, like I say, did not want to do a show about bullying on a black kid show. It's like they're probably afraid of the backlash they'll get. And to their credit, one of the people that we dealt with, who probably was the main person we dealt with, was black. But she and I had a lot of differences. But to their credit, I can understand that being an issue. But then to do the same thing on a white show with no problem, I think was like kind of unfair, kind of a double standard. And I wasn't going to tolerate that because I don't believe in killing a good episode and a good script over BS, and that's all that was.
Yeah. Yeah, I really think a second season would have helped the show a lot better. I think there were much more potential, and we could see the promise in the show. Definitely, that's what could have happened. Hey, if fond memories outlasted more success better, you could look back on it, and people, like you said, still love the show, and that's something you could be proud of still.
Oh yeah, and like I said, I've had a fun career. I mean,
Hmm.
for the past 4 seasons, I've been one of the writers of Real Houses of Hollywood with Kevin Hart, and it's probably arguably to a lot of people the funniest show on TV. So it's like I've had a lot of fun. I mean, I've done Moesha, Married with Children, The Parkers,
Hmm.
Proud Family. I mean, I've had a pretty good career. I've been on a lot of good shows, a lot of funny shows, and I've had fun. I got 2 kids in college, so
Yeah.
I got one more left. So provide for them and my family, my wife. So I can't complain.
How great were all the staff who worked at the Nick Studios? Because I always hear stories about how friendly everyone was, and they were just such genuine, honest people to be around with. How was your experience with them?
Everybody I dealt with was pretty good, pretty great. I had a good time. Angie Barton Beck, who was our producer,
Hmm.
she was a wonderful, wonderful person. Mary Dudley, one of our producers, once again, a wonderful person, great. All these are very talented people working on shoestring budgets, dealing with a lot of craziness, but somehow they got it done. I mean, a lot of good people were down there. I had a lot of good relationships with people, so it was very positive.
Yeah, yeah, it was. I mean, to think about to be in Florida, I think one of the reasons that it worked is because it was less pressure to be filming there while not thinking about all the maintaining budget issues that New York and Los Angeles provide. So that's why it must have been just a joy to be there too. I
So it
feel
was a
like.
lot of fun, but like I say, unfortunately, you're dealing with very small budgets and trying to do things on the cheap. Because back then, in Nickelodeon, nickel was off of his word compared to today.
Yes, yes. And the Nick Studios unfortunately closed in 2005. It's now repopulated by the Blue Man Group, but there's so many people who said they miss it and they want to see it come back one day. Would you like to see it be reopened? Do you think it should come back?
I think it's a good thing for the tourists and for the area. I mean, it'd be nice to be able to do production down there again in Orlando. I mean, I think it was a very positive experience, and with so many channels now, even if it wasn't strictly a Nick studio, you have a facility there. You want to see it for years.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't really think it will capture the magic it had back in the 90s, but still, there's something about it that held so many special place in a people's heart, and there's so many good things you could do with it still. Like, you could make a pilot there, you could make the tour happening. Like, live audiences, I feel like are kind of not happening anymore, and I think we need some of that back.
No, it's just it would definitely be I think it would be a positive thing if they did reopen that, especially ever since we watched Nickelodeon that did it, because it is such a iconic thing for that network having that studio in Florida and became really, a big deal. But now, if Nickelodeon couldn't do it, somebody else gave it a shot. I mean, I just think it is a great facility in a great area. I mean, a great kid-friendly place and family-friendly. So you can't beat that.
Right, you can't. And finally, what do you think made the studio so great and special?
Um, you know what? I just think because it was new. It was something different. It was a place trying to do stuff that they did in L.A. and New York and Orlando, Florida. So it was, that's what made it special. And for people who had kids and families, it was great for the family to come down and, like I said, to do Universal, to do Disney, SeaWorld, Busch Gardens, all the great stuff that's down there. It's a great family-oriented place.
Yeah, it is. It certainly is. And that's why this documentary, I wanted to just showcase that and see what it was like for this part in children's TV and why it was just a monumental place. And you're like the 77th person so far I've talked to. And yeah, just thank you.
Oh, no problem. Anytime if you need a follow-up, I'm open. Just give me a call. You got my information.
All right, perfect, perfect. And yeah, I'll get this interview back to you in a few days. And thank you so much for talking to me. It was really nice to hear this, your experience.
Oh, okay. I appreciate it. If you need anything, let me know.
All right, cool. I think I'll do that. So, all right. All right. I'll talk to you later then.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye bye.